Hello, everyone. This is attorney Anthony Benitez with the Marc Lopez Law Firm.
And I'm attorney Matthew Crow's Marc Lopez Law Firm.
And today we are here to talk to you guys about guns. Matt, why are we here to talk about guns?
Well, here at the Marc Lopez Law Firm, we're primarily criminal defense. And the weird part, I don't know if you know this, but we have a lot of clients who are facing current felony charges. Well, with guns, it's actually a federal crime. If you have pending felony charges, it's actually a crime to either transport or receive a gun or ammunition, which sounds pretty crazy. So you could have just for example, a felony domestic violence case in state court pending. If you walk into Cabela's and you purchase, let's say it's hunting season, you purchase shotgun shells, that's technically a federal crime. It sounds absolutely crazy. Now, the government would have to prove you actually received or purchased this ammunition, or if you bought a gun, that you received or purchased this gun while the case was pending. But it's just insane to me to think that if you have felony charges pending, you can be charged at the federal level for a whole new case. Now, I understand that the federal government and federal cases are crazy, but you can also be charged at state level. So, Mr. Benitez, what kind of state level crimes are we looking at with guns?
Yeah, with guns, usually the most basic charge that we see is a Class A misdemeanor, which is having a firearm in your possession. That's a Class A misdemeanor. For a Class A misdemeanor, the maximum penalty is a year in jail and a maximum fine of $5,000. And it's very important to know that whenever somebody's charged with a Class A misdemeanor, a lot of the prosecutors are very strict. They take these cases very serious because they tend to see the people that usually commit these crimes do them over and over again. And as you will see, usually the charge is worse. So if you do the exact same charge after being convicted of having a firearm, and this is a misdemeanor, but after that, it gets worse. You're looking at a felony 5, which now you're looking at 6 years in the Department of Correction, it's a big difference. And then after that, Mr. Crows, it gets worse, doesn't it?
Well, it depends. It absolutely can. So what you're talking about is carrying a handgun without a license. And if you do that twice, it jumps from an A misdemeanor to a level 5 felony, which is why I'm assuming the prosecutors take it so seriously, is because of that jump. Normally, you'll see a 1-level jump. It's actually a 2-level jump. It could get even worse. It could be a 3-level jump, depending on your criminal history. In other words, if you're classified with what's called a serious violent felon, so if you commit crimes that the state of Indiana deems you, one, to be an improper person to carry a gun, which if you get convicted of a felony, you are an improper person and you lose your right to carry a gun. But more importantly, if you've committed crimes of violence and then you're determined to be a violent offender, that jumps to a level 4 felony. And now you start looking at 12 years in the Department of Corrections. The problem, though, with any kind of gun case is with the increased gun violence in Indiana, in Indianapolis specifically, we're seeing a gradual and actually a relatively substantial increase in gun violence every single year since 2016. And 2020 is going to be no different. We're actually looking at to be the highest gun violence year, at least, that we have so far. So that's why we see a lot of these. So worst case, the jump from misdemeanor to felony 5 or misdemeanor to felony 4, you could actually jump from misdemeanor right into federal court. And if your case goes federal, that's no joke. Because to get into federal court, the United States attorneys are basically handpicking these cases.
It's very important to let you guys know, like Attorney Crow said, the federals are taking these cases, more and more cases, federally. In fact, even if you take a plea on a case at the state level, they can still file charges against you federally. In fact, I've seen that happen. I actually am on a case right now where somebody pled guilty, not my case, at a state level. That case was done. The feds decided to take the case federally, and we're currently fighting his case right now.
In other words, the United States government isn't going to look at a case and be like, "Oh, this is a toss-up. We might lose this case." They're going to leave that for the state government to prosecute. They're going to say, "Hey, this guy's dead to rights. Fires a shot 3 times, 14 different witnesses. Cop was there. Oh, this is a done deal." That's a case that they're going to take federal. United States attorneys, you can imagine the United States government doesn't want to lose cases. So when they get to handpick cases, it's a real deal. So if you find yourself facing federal charges or any kind of gun crime, give us a call. We're happy to talk to you. 317 632-3642. And remember, always plead the fifth.